I had another crazy dream last night. So, I guess it was Black Friday or something, and I was going shopping. And where I live, there's like a shopping center that has like Target and Best Buy and a bunch of other stores in it. And so I go there first, and for some reason, by Target, there's like no one, but by Best Buy, there's like everyone. And for some reason, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go park in the Best Buy parking lot. Like, that's a good idea. So, no, let me on. I like go to this little cafe because I want like coffee or something. And I like set all my stuff down. There's like a little outside table, you know, the little like metal tables that have like 4 chairs on them. And I set all my stuff outside, and then I like walk off to grab something, and I come back and there's this lady there. And like she's basically taken over the table, so I'm like, okay, whatever. So I grab all my stuff and I start going, and she accuses me of stealing her stuff. And I'm like, no, my stuff was here first. Like, I'm just grabbing my stuff and going because it's not worth my time to sit here and fight with a table. Or fight over a table with you, so whatever. And then so she like starts freaking out, and she calls 911, and she's sitting there and she's like, there's this lady, and she's stealing all my stuff, and she's assaulting me, and she's hitting me, and yelling at me, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like standing there, and I'm like, clearly not, like, okay. So I don't even remember if the cops end up coming or not, but I go to Best Buy, and there's like a million people at Best Buy, and they're like only letting so many people in at one time because I guess there are so many people. And I didn't even need to go to Best Buy, I guess, but I was like, I'm gonna go in anyways, like I don't even care. And so I go into Best Buy, and I'm just like walking around like looking at stuff, and then eventually I'm like, nah, I don't need anything, and I just leave. And there's this girl that holds the door for me on my way out, and she's like, how'd you get in? And I was like, I just like walked in. Like, what do you mean, how did I get in? And then she goes to tell me that she's visiting because she has a band, and her band is playing in town that weekend or something. And so she was visiting, but she needed to go to Best Buy to get something. And like, it was this whole weird elaborate story. And then I remember right next door, like I was looking at the girl holding the door, and behind her there was a liquor store. And this guy comes out of the liquor store, and he has this like super fancy bottle of alcohol. And it was like a skull and crossbones at the bottom, but it was all like silver and like off of the bottle. So like there was a silver piece attached to the bottle, and it was this skeleton that was, its hand was holding like the spout or the neck. Wow, good job, guys. The neck of the bottle, and it was all like super intricate and like pretty swirls and stuff, and it was like super nice. And I was like, dude, what kind of alcohol is that? I want that bottle. And he just like looked at me and walked off, and I was like, okay. And then I walked off, like I was done with Best Buy, and I was walking over to Target or something, but my ex-boyfriend was working at a Girl Scout cookie booth. And so I go over to the cookie booth, and I'm like, I want to buy some Girl Scout cookies. But for some reason, they were selling them like individually, like you could buy one cookie. So I was like, that's weird. And I ended up getting a box of Thin Mints and a box of peanut butter patties, which were my favorite. But I remember I walked off and I opened them, and they were like super weird shaped. Like, you know when you make cookies and they're like big and small and wiggly and whatever, and they were just all like super weird shaped. So I like started eating the cookies, and I'm walking towards my car, and then my ex-boyfriend's like, will you help me clean the burners in my house? And I was like, what? And he's like, no, I need help cleaning like the stovetop burners at my house. And I guess he lived like right there. And I was like, okay. So I go in and I start helping him cleaning. He's like a industrial, in my dream, industrial stovetop that's, you know, got like 6 burners or whatever, and they're all fancy, or 8 or whatever. And I like start helping him clean it, and we're just like talking, and I guess his boss's husband bought a restaurant or something in like Louisiana, and he's gone 6 months out of the year, but he was gone from December until like May or whatever that is, 5 months. And so his boss was all upset because her husband had just left to go to Louisiana for 6 months, and she was all distressed, and so he needed to help her clean the burners to make her feel better, but the burners were in his house, so I don't know if like my brain said that like he borrowed the burners and brought them home to clean them, or if they were like actually part of his house, but I don't know. So I'm like, I remember I was helping him clean them, and it was like, you know when you turn them but you don't push them, so it just like does the gas instead of the fire? They were all turned on, And I was like, dude, you're gonna like start a house fire because there's so much gas coming out of the stove right now. And he was like, no, it's fine, just clean it. And I was like, dude, no, we need to turn this off. Like, we're gonna start a fire. And then so we like clean the stove, and then he goes, I don't have any money, will you buy me Sonic? And I was like, what? And he's like, no, I want Sonic. And I was like, okay, whatever. And so I like go out of the house, like we walk out together, like I was gonna get him Sonic, and then these two girls that I guess I went to high school with, you know where your brain like says you went to high school with these people, but I'm pretty sure you didn't, like they're totally random strangers. I guess I went to high school with these girls, and they walk up and they go, Kes, you need to drive us to the convention center. I was like, well, what's the convention center? And I guess there was some like fair or like county fair or something going on, and it was like later in the day apparently, so they missed like the beginning festivities and their friends were already there, and I was supposed to drive them? And I was like, no one told me this. Why am I driving you? Like, what? It's just like 5 blocks away, like walk there. And they're like, no, you have to drive us. And I was like, okay. So I guess we all get in my car. I don't know if my ex-boyfriend ended up showing up in the car, but me and these two girls that apparently I went to high school with showed up in the car. And I'm like driving in the parking lot, and all of these people pull out at the same time. So then we're all like boxed in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to get to the county fair. Like it's 5 blocks away. Like it'll take 2 minutes to drive it. Like this is so annoying. So I like get out of my car, and I'm telling all of these, it's all a bunch of old people, and I'm telling them like, hey, you pull forward that way, you go this way, I'll do this, so we can all like get out. Cause again, for some reason we all backed up at the same time. So that took, you know, a couple minutes in my dream, and like the girls are freaking out because their friends are already at the county fair and they're gonna miss it, and like, I don't know. So I end up driving them to the county fair, and we get there, and there's one of those like big blow up slides. And like, it's really big, and you went in your dream where like just physics doesn't make sense. It like curved and then went back up and then went around again, and I guess that's how the slide was, and for some reason it didn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't make any sense in real life, but it made sense in the dream. And so like all these people are like going up and down the slides and stuff, and it was like in a tree canopy. So like the very top was like a platform, and then there was a bunch of trees and stuff, and then there was this weird slide. And I get to the top, and I'm just like, I think I only go down it like once or twice. And then I'm at the canopy part, and I was looking at like the decorations, because I guess it was like in a real tree, but then they decorated it with fake things. So there was like a taxidermied flying squirrel that they hung up. And I remember in my dream I was looking at it, and it was like moth-eaten and like gross. And I was like, why would you taxidermy a flying squirrel and then like leave it outside so it gets ruined and then like hang it up at this county fair? Like this doesn't make any sense. And I run into my dad's there, and he's like trying to go down the slide, but my little sister's there with her Girl Scout troop, and I guess they're doing some kind of badge where, you know, you have to like do all the activities to earn the badge. And one of the activities was they had to like sort and identify a bunch of like screws, but they were like super high-tech, super weird screws, and there were like 50 of them, and they were like in the way on the platform doing all this Girl Scout stuff, and my dad was trying to go down the slide, and I was like, can we like not do this? And they're like, no, we have to do it for our badge. And I was like, why do you have to do it here? That's so super inconvenient. And then I run into one of my coworkers, and he's like, did you see the flying squirrel? And I was like, yeah, it's ugly, I hate it. And he was like, huh, and then like walks off, and that was just like the only interaction I have with one of my coworkers. And then there's this ecologist that shows up, and he's like talking about like the fact that they put a slide in the tree, and it's like killing the tree. And I was like, okay. And then he takes me like outside of the area, and there were ostrich and emu nests in the tree. And I remember thinking, this doesn't make any sense. Why are they in a tree? They're huge. Like, ostriches are gigantic. And he was like, humankind is changing the course of the ecosystem, and it's causing these ostriches and emus to move into the trees because they can't have their nests on the ground. And obviously they're dying because the baby birds can't fly, and they fall out of the nest onto the ground and die. And I was like, this is the most illogical thing ever, but okay. And then like I remember I was looking at these nests, and the baby birds were falling out, but they were flying. And I was like, okay, well that debunks that right there. Like, what are you talking about, crazy ecologist guy? And then I guess he was saying that the only way to save them was to feed them these giant purple figs. Like, they were the size of watermelons. They were huge. And he was like, there's only one tree left in the whole world, and it's the one that the slide's in. And I was like, okay, well then plant more trees. Like, and he like looks at me and he's like, do you think we could do that? And I was like, yes. So then I like show this ecologist and we plant a bunch of trees, and then like, you know, in your dreams, things grow super fast. So the trees like pop up immediately, and like there's this whole ecosystem now, or a forest now of all of these giant fig trees. So the emus and the ostriches can eat the fruit and live in the trees. And he was like, oh my gosh, you saved us all. This is so miraculous. Blah. And I was like, dude, you're an ecologist. You don't know how to plant trees. Like, I don't understand. So that was a crazy dream I had the other night.